Welcome back to Pressers by FedNet, where news conferences from the United States Congress become podcast episodes for your listening on your time. Following on a series of special episodes from December, in which various caucuses previewed their policy priorities for the current Congress, we are publishing another. Members of the Congressional Hispanic Conference, a Republican counterpart to the Hispanic Caucus, led by Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez, held a press conference on March 25th. Members from Florida, New York, Colorado, and California discussed their policy priorities for the 119th Congress, from immigration to tax reform, combating drug cartels, and more. The following material is protected by copyright.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming to today. It's my privilege to be the chair of the Hispanic Conference in the 119th Congress. We've gotten off to a very quick start, thanks to President Trump and his new policies. We're certainly grateful for that here in Congress, but we also have a role to play, and you're going to see the Hispanic Conference become even more active. We all sit on relevant committees: appropriations, Ways and Means, Energy and Commerce, Financial Services, Armed Services, Homeland Security. A lot of relevant things happening right now. I also want to highlight what some of the members have been working on. It's a diverse conference. Our Hispanic Conference is diverse, not only in our ethnicity, but also in our geographic location. We've got members from Texas, we've got members from Florida, New York, California, Colorado, Arizona. I'd also say, too, that our members are very engaged on the topics that matter, certainly of the day. Some of the things that I want to highlight, some of the leaders that we've had and continue to have, is Mauro Diaz-Balart, certainly on the foreign policy standpoint. From a Cuban-American standpoint, he's led for years on that. You've got David Valadao and Monica de la Cruz that have led on water issues. Sometimes the topics are as complex as foreign policy. Sometimes they're as complex as water. And if you're a farmer or you're a rancher in South Texas or Florida, or California or anywhere, water is very important. They've certainly been leaders on that. During the recess, my good friend Juan Ciscomani hosted freshman members at the border. The border is clearly very important to us. It's very important to our country. And I think he had 9 members there. It's a fantastic thing to bring new members, to have them not just talk about the issue, but actually understand it. Don't just take selfies with the wall, but sit down and do roundtables with people that are certainly living it every day. Carlos Jimenez has been a champion on Homeland Security, specifically from a Coast Guard standpoint. Right? He represents an area that I don't think gets enough coverage, Jayada South, Key West. Very important to not only securing our border, but also combating against narcotics. Nicole Malliotakis has been a leader on Medicaid. I think what you're gonna find from this group, the Hispanic Conference, is very committed to protecting Medicaid, to making sure that we cut the fraud and the waste, but we protect those hardworking Americans that are doing it the right way. Same thing with SNAP as we work through the reconciliation, and we are absolutely committed to making sure that the president's agenda gets done, that we work in a manner that tackles, once again, the waste and the fraud, but also protects those hardworking Americans, so we make sure we don't pull the rug out from underneath them. We're committed to doing that. You're going to see most of that. And then our newest member, Gabe Evans from Colorado, a variety of different areas, but energy is one thing that comes to mind when I think of Gabe. In my district, Reeves County produces more natural gas than anywhere in the country. And while we often talk about immigration, it's those kitchen table issues that matter to all of us, regardless of what district you represent. So the cost of energy is important. Gabe has been a leader on that. He sits on Energy and Commerce, and we're excited to have them. So just we're going to go through the members here. We're going to go through the members, and then we'll take some questions. Some of our priorities in the 119th Congress are pretty simple. It's going to be reconciliation, making sure that we pass a reconciliation package that delivers for the American people, that accomplishes all the things that President Trump and his agenda want to accomplish, and also protects Medicaid, also protects these benefits for Americans. Veterans, I'm a veteran, Gabe's a veteran. We can accomplish all those things, both those things. And I think you're going to see the Hispanic Conference lead the way on that. one vote in the 119th Congress equals 100, and the members, we've got a dozen members from across the various different conferences as well. So I want to turn it over now to my good friend from Texas, Monica de la Cruz.
Hi there. Good afternoon. My name is Monica de la Cruz, and I'm proudly representing Texas's 15th Congressional District. I'm the first Hispanic Republican female to represent the great state of Texas for a full term. And so I'm humbled to be here today and representing one of the most Hispanic districts, not only in the state of Texas, but in the nation. My district is over 80% Hispanic. We are right on the border. And there are many issues that come to mind of importance, not only to work on securing the border, but water as well. I am an advocate of the Mexican government complying with the 1944 Water Treaty, where the Mexican government has failed to deliver its annual allotment of water. Right now, they owe us over 1 million acre-feet of water. That amount of water would give the city of Houston, I'm going to say this again, the city of Houston, water for 3 years. That is how much water the Mexican government owes us, and it is simply unacceptable. This is an issue that I raised under the Biden administration and with the former Secretary Blinken, and we got absolutely no response and no movement when it came to holding the Mexican government accountable. Now, with the change in the White House, what we have found is that the Trump administration and Secretary Rubio understands that water is essential, not only to our communities, but to our agriculture community as well, because ultimately food security is a matter of national security. We lost our sugar farm last year, and we are on the verge of losing our fresh citrus if the Mexican government does not comply. Thankfully, the Trump White House has made movement, and they were bold. They were courageous with the leadership of Secretary Rubio, and the secretary is going to hold back water from the Colorado Treaty until the Mexican government complies with the 1944 Water Treaty. This is a very, very serious issue, as many of our generational farms in South Texas are closing. So that is my number one top issue for the constituents of Deep South Texas. But make no mistake, my friends, this is not just about Texas. It is South Texas that feeds Americans, all Americans, not only with citrus, but with sugar cane, with special grains as well. So it is an issue that I'll be talking about along with the border security that I was just speaking about. Now, I know that because we are the Hispanic conference here, and there are many of us here who have districts like mine, and there are some outlets here that are in Spanish. I'm also going to have some remarks in Spanish for today as well for some of our Spanish-speaking outlets. So, gracias por estar aquí hoy. Mis abuelitos fueron campesinos mexicanos. Ellos me enseñaron que con trabajo duro todo es posible. Gracias a ellos pude tener mi propio negocio y ahora soy la congresista del sur de Texas, donde la mayoría son hispanos. Los hispanos estamos apoyando ideas de sentido común y fuimos esenciales en la reelección del presidente Trump. Los hispanos estamos apoyando ideas de sentido común y fuimos esenciales en la reelección del presidente Trump. Trabajamos para cuidar los programas que ayudaron a nuestras comunidades como Medicaid, Social Security, y también para eliminar el fraude y el abuso de estos recursos. Estoy orgullosa de haber propuesto una ley, el Speak Act, para ayudar a las personas que no hablan bien inglés a recibir buena atención médica. Gracias. And I would like to now invite Gabe Evans.
Well,
thank you all so much for coming today. I'm Gabe Evans from Colorado's 8th Congressional District. Truly honored to be here. And part of that honor comes from my family story. My abuelito, Cuauhtemoc Chavez, born in Mexico, came to the United States, earned his citizenship with Patton's Third Army in World War II. And so from a very, very young age, it was instilled in me that you love your country, you take care of your country, and we respect the contributions of those folks who have lawfully come to the United States and, like my grandfather did, volunteered to shed their own blood for their adopted new home. And because of that, I served for 12 years in the U.S. Army, in the Colorado Army National Guard, another 10 years in law enforcement, the Colorado State Legislature, and I'm now honored to represent, again, Colorado's 8th Congressional District. It's the highest Hispanic concentration of any of the 8 congressional districts in Colorado, at almost 40%. And the things that I'm focused on and that my community is focused on are really two things. It's security and public safety in the community, and it's cost of living. As a police officer, I watched our public safety completely fall apart in Colorado because of things like sanctuary state laws that enabled cartels and violent international gangs to take root in our neighborhoods and in our communities. I think most folks have seen all of the news about Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan prison gang. That is in my community. There was a big takedown a couple of weeks ago where almost 50 Tren de Aragua members were arrested in my district at one of their hangouts. Colorado is unfortunately the national command and control center for gangs like Tren de Aragua, and it's because of these terrible public safety policies that, again, I saw as a police officer and that I'm focused on fighting now that I'm in Congress. The statistics are terrible. Colorado is number 2 in the nation for teenagers overdosing and dying on illegal drugs like fentanyl. And in the Colorado area, my district, we know that most of that fentanyl is trafficked by 2 cartels, the Sinaloa cartel and the Jalisco cartel. So making sure that we're empowering law enforcement to work with their state and their federal partners to keep our communities safe is something that affects everyone in my district, but is, of course, a top concern for the Hispanic community as well. The second thing is cost of living. Colorado is one of the most expensive places in the country to live right now, and for all of our community members, to include a lot of my Hispanic community, just being able to put food on the table and gas on the car is a major concern. So we've done, just in the last 10 weeks that I've been a congressman, we've done multiple roundtables with the Hispanic community members, with our small business owners, to talk through the issues and the barriers that are making the cost of living in Colorado so difficult. And one of the things that I'm committed to in this conversation space as a Latino is making sure that we're not just focused on the traditional conservative talking points, but we truly are looking to grow and expand the conversation by making sure that we're bringing conservative solutions to those organic Hispanic issues and making sure that we are addressing the concerns that they have that are unique to the Hispanic community. And so those are the things that I'm focused on. Incredibly honored to be here, and I wish I could hang out for the rest of the conference. I'm supposed to be in 3 places at once, so I'm going to have to duck out. But again, thank you all so much for coming today, and I'll be followed by Rep. Carlos Jimenez. Thanks.
Thank you, Gabe. I appreciate it. My name is Carlos Jimenez. I represent Florida's 28th Congressional District. I'm on my 3rd term right now. Florida's 28th Congressional District is Southwest Miami-Dade and all of the Keys. And has been referenced before by my colleague Monica de la Cruz, I also represent a very highly Hispanic district. About 70% of the voters in my district are Hispanic, although it's a diverse Hispanic community. There's Cubans, Colombians, Nicaraguans, Venezuelans, and a host of other countries from Central and South America are actually represented in my congressional district. I sit on Armed Services, I sit on Homeland Security, and also sit on the Select China Committee. And so my emphasis this particular Congress is actually my work on the Select China Committee and then what China is doing in Central and South America and combating the influence of China and other malign nations in Central and South America. My other big emphasis is going to be the cause of freedom. Freedom in Central and South America, freedom for the people of Cuba, freedom for the people of Venezuela, freedom for the people of Nicaragua. Because if you actually can establish free and democratic governments in those three countries, actually a lot of the issues that are affecting the United States will be resolved. You won't have a lot of the mass migration that we've seen in the last 4 years during the Biden administration. Obviously, immigration is also a big topic with the people in my district and myself as their congressperson, and we'll be working with the administration to make sure that the policies established by the administration concerning immigration are nuanced, and that those people that need to be deported are deported. The ones that are causing a security issue to the United States are deported. But there are other folks that are there that may be caught up in some of these policies that, hey, there's a reason why they are here. But the best way, again, to combat the issue of illegal immigration is actually to, A, secure our border, but then also take out the root cause of that immigration, which is these dictatorial regimes that we find in Central and South America. And so those are the things that I'm going to be focused in on. I'm also going to be focused in on how we can do further outreach with the Hispanic community. President Trump had historic record of Hispanics vote for him in this last election, and it wasn't by accident. It's because Hispanics are drawn to hard work, people of faith, and they came here for one thing: is to have the opportunity to live out their lives in a free and open society. And so many of the values, most of the values that we have in the Republican Party are actually the same values as Hispanics. So I see an opportunity for growth, tremendous growth, in the Hispanic community joining our party and joining our cause, and because they have conservative values. And Hispanics, Ronald Reagan once said, they're Republicans, they just don't know it yet. Well, they're starting to find out that they're actually Republican. And we're going to see more and more Hispanics coming to the Republican side and helping us maintain a majority, and also helping us in future elections. Me llamo Carlos Jiménez, yo soy el representante del distrito número 28 del estado de la Florida, es el suroeste del condado de Miami-Dade y también Los Cayos. Yo estoy sirviendo ahora, mi distrito es como 70% hispano, pero son diversos, no solamente son cubanoamericanos, son venezolanos, son nicaragüenses, colombianos y otras partes y ciudadanos de otras partes de Sudamérica y Centroamérica. Estoy dedicado, yo sirvo estoy en el comité de las Fuerzas Armadas, el comité de la Seguridad Nacional, también el comité sobre el Partido Comunista de China. Y en eso estoy enfocado en la influencia que tiene el Partido Comunista de China en Centro y Suramérica. Eso es lo que estoy enfocado, pero también estoy enfocado en la causa de la libertad para los países de Sudamérica y el Caribe que están dominados por dictaduras comunistas, como en Cuba, en Venezuela y Nicaragua, porque los Estados Unidos tienen que ser el campeón de la libertad y la democracia en nuestro hemisferio. Y si nosotros podemos lograr cambios en esos tres países a gobiernos democráticos y libres, entonces también muchas de la presión de inmigración se va a eliminar. Así que es parte también de la estrategia de la seguridad de los Estados Unidos, es a ver en qué manera podemos nosotros lograr esa libertad y esos cambios en esos gobiernos que están oprimiendo a sus pueblos en el Caribe, en Cuba, Venezuela y Nicaragua. También hemos visto que el presidente Trump ganó un número de hispanos votaron, un gran número de hispanos votaron por el presidente Trump. Yo creo que le dieron el margen de la victoria, y eso creció. Ahora, yo veo que el futuro del Partido Republicano también es traer más y más hispanos a lo que es el Partido Republicano. ¿Por qué? Porque tenemos los mismos valores que tiene hispanos. Los hispanos somos personas de fe, de familia, de trabajo duro y fuerte, y esos son los valores del Partido Republicano. Así que por eso es que yo veo que vamos a hacer más y más ganancias con la comunidad hispana en la nación, y eso va a ser también parte del enfoque mío durante este Congreso. Y ahora, con eso, le voy a pedir a la representante de Nueva York, Nicole Malliotakis, que si tiene este comentario.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Proud to join my colleagues here. As you see, our Hispanic Republican caucus is present. We're growing, and we're very excited to be here as a voice, not just for Hispanic Americans, but for all Americans. And as a member of the House Ways and Means Committee, my priority is to make sure that we deliver a good package that lowers taxes for our families, for businesses, and continues to build on the success of the 2017 TCJA that, as you know, created millions of jobs. It doubled the standard deduction, it doubled the child tax credit, and it brought unemployment for Hispanics to record lows. And so we have the opportunity this year to work together to build on that success, and we intend to do so. Some of the things that we're working on right now are reducing tax burden that our senior citizens on Social Security pay. We're also looking to reduce taxes for our tipped employees, those working overtime, particularly our first responders. And obviously among those groups, there are many Hispanics. And this will help improve their quality of life, put more money in their pocket, help them raise families, and help them expand their businesses. And so those are my priorities in that space. And then a particular touch with Puerto Rico, I think is really important to actually discuss here today, because one of the bills that I've introduced that we're working on is to bring our medical supply chain home to the United States. And as you know, we rely on communist China for 70–80% of our active pharmaceutical ingredients. If we've learned anything from COVID is that we cannot rely on a foreign country, particularly communist China, for our medical supply. And so we think there's a really great opportunity to bring pharmaceutical industry back to Puerto Rico, and they have the infrastructure, and this will create many jobs and bring economic activity to the island when it is desperately needed. And so I think this is something that our coalition here can rally behind. We've been working with the state government in Puerto Rico to finalize language. I have 2 pieces of legislation we've introduced already, and it fits within President Trump's priorities of ensuring that we bring the supply chain back to the United States, and we focus on made in America. So whether it's Puerto Rico or any of the other U.S. territories, our legislation would go a long way in bringing that home. I also want to touch on the issue of immigration. I am the daughter of immigrants. My father's from Greece. My mother is from Cuba, like Carlos and Mario, a refugee who fled the Castro regime in 1959. And so I share these values of, number one, preserving freedom, preserving democracy, preserving liberty here in the United States, and spreading it across the globe, particularly in our backyard. And so I join my colleagues in those efforts. I think it's really important when we talk about immigration that we recognize the important role that immigrants play in our communities, whether it's just contributions that they've made in building our country, but also from an economic standpoint, the role that they play. Where we draw the line is individuals who have exploited our country's generosity to wreak havoc in our cities and our nation. And I think New York City is a perfect example of where it's gone wrong. We have seen individuals who are members of gangs, they're drug traffickers, they are violent individuals who have really created a lot of problems. And we're thankful to President Trump for ensuring that we're prioritizing deporting criminals. But we also need to make sure that we work to make people who are following our rules, following our laws, working hard and want to contribute to our society, that we help them become United States citizens. And I would say, as a member in New York City, I would say I probably have helped more people become American citizens than any other member in the city of New York. And I would love to see the numbers for all these individuals who claim to be pro-immigration. because we worked very diligently to help those individuals who've got caught in red tape and bureaucracy. And one of the problems has been the way the Biden administration had prioritized individuals. They had a last in, first out approach, which meant if you came over the border and you were flown to a city like New York, you got a priority for a hearing. And people who had been waiting a long time got kicked to the end of the line. And so I look forward to working with this group and the White House to rectify that, make sure that we streamline the process so good people who want to be part of the fabric of our nation and want to contribute and become good citizens will have the opportunity to do so. Thank you. Proud to welcome my good friend from Arizona, Juan Ciscomani.
Thank you. Well, thanks everyone for being here. I know that votes were just called, so I'll be brief. We just all came back from that time at home and being with our constituents again and meeting with them. I'll give you a quick example of something that I really enjoy doing when I'm back at home, and that's attending naturalization ceremonies that happen every other Friday or so in Tucson. And I love to attend them because I was sitting where they are sitting, becoming U.S. citizens. I did that process and completed that process in 2006. It was a long process for my family to get to that point, but I can look at those new citizens and let them know that they're in the best country in the world, and it's just all up to that hard work and determination that they have to make go and achieve that American dream. So that's one of my favorite things to do at home, and I was able to do that. As Tony mentioned as well, Tony Gonzalez, my friend from Texas, mentioned, I hosted a group of 9 freshman members of Congress to the border a few weeks ago, and we took them there to make sure that they understood the full picture of the border, because security is the priority and the big part of it, but we also have an immigration point that we need to cover, and also a trade and commerce piece of the border. So they were down at the port of entry in Nogales, where we saw both the security side and also the trade and the commerce side of it, which was very enlightening to them and very rewarding for me to be able to see that and help 9 more members here understand that the different aspects of the border and what that looks like. Also, in many meetings with my constituents, I've met with veterans and also put at ease a lot of the concerns that they have for all the misinformation out there regarding the efforts to supposedly cut their benefits and so on. There was fear that I was sensing from them. I have a veterans council, and we had a very open conversation about that. Talked to every media outlet at home that wanted to talk to us and that would listen about what we're working on here. And it was mentioned by my colleagues the next steps in the reconciliation process and how we need to make sure that we protect these key and vital programs like Medicaid, like SNAP benefits, like Pell Grants, things that we've been vocal as a group to the Speaker even before the budget resolution vote on what are the things that we need to protect. While we surely understand the need to reduce spending, cut back on a lot of this spending, find the waste, the fraud, and the abuse that is going on in the federal government all across it. At the same time, we want to make sure that we protect the vital services for those that need it the most, and that these programs were designed to protect and serve as well. So a lot of clearing up that had to be done at home, which I was happy to do. That's what my job is. So now we're here, back fighting for our constituents in our district, and I am very proud to be doing that in company of my friends here behind me. I was going to say all this in Spanish too, but that only doubles the time, and in Spanish things take longer all the time. So I'm just going to leave it at that, and I'm going to turn it over to my good friend David Valadao from California.
All right.
Who was next? Was that?
I think. All right. Well, we'll be quick because of votes. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Valadao. I represent California's 22nd Congressional District. I am the Portuguese member of this group. My parents are Portuguese immigrants. My dad immigrated in 1969, so I grew up the same type of story, but my district is one of the most Hispanic districts held by a Republican in the nation, in the 70% range. So I spent a lot of time talking to folks, working with my folks across the district. But the stories are a lot the same. I mean, we grew up, we came to this country looking for a better life. And what my parents risked for, and so many families in my district risked a lot for to come here, we're trying to protect. And I think that's important for us as members of Congress to always recognize that when people are looking at this country from all over the world, they see opportunity, they see hope, they see something that they want to achieve. My parents were part of that group, and there's so many others that are in line waiting, those who are currently in the process, and some that have been here for a while and are just trying to achieve that dream. Things that have been mentioned that are important, obviously Medicaid, making sure that opportunity, regulations, low energy costs, all the things that I think really changed the impact of this past election cycle. I mean, my district was one that was a Biden 13 district in 2020, went to a Trump 5. I mean, the swing in a Hispanic population, I think there's nowhere else in the country that had as much of a dramatic swing as my district. And I think the Biden economy played a huge role in that. The cost of living, especially compounded with what California does at the state legislature and with our governor, making life more complicated, more difficult, more expensive, has really swung some voters our direction. Now it's up to us as members of Congress and the Senate and the presidency to make sure we keep these voters on our side, and it's by doing our jobs effectively and representing them well and making sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to make their lives, their abilities to achieve their American dream as much as possible. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate this group, and I'm going to call up my friend, Mauro Diaz-Balart from Florida.
Thank you. Thank you, David. First, let me thank Chairman Tony Gonzalez. Thanks for putting this together. A lot has been said, but I think there's a couple things that I think it's very pretty obvious. If you look at this group, these are folks that get things done. These are real leaders in this process. These are folks that are not here as they're not put in positions to be a token member. These are real leaders who get things done. That's point number one. Point number two is what every American, I don't care if you've been here for, you were brought over here on the Mayflower or if you just got here relatively recently. The reason this country is the magnet that it is basically, it starts with one thing: adherence to the rule of law. And what we've seen in the last 4 years is a violation of that basic principle. It's been an open border. Actually, it's not even true. It's been giving the control of the southern border to the narco cartels in Mexico. It has been, as you've already heard, treating folks who just got here recently better, and in some cases treating folks who are members of gangs better than Americans who have been here for generations. We've seen a violation of the rule of law. I'm not going to get into all the details and all the issues. I do want to tell you that some of the things that I focus on. So I represent the 26th District of Florida. I'm honored to be the Vice Chairman of the Appropriations Committee. I also chair the National Security National Security State and Related Programs Subcommittee of Appropriations, and I'm on the Defense Subcommittee of Appropriations. So because of that, I spend a lot of time on national security issues. And whether it's national security, defending and protecting our men and women in uniform, our heroes of the armed forces, or whether it's making sure that there's no confusion, which is supporting our allies and our friends and standing up to our adversaries, not the other way around, which was the case in the last 4 years. And so it's a privilege to work with this group of colleagues who are leaders, real leaders in what they are doing, and representing a very diverse district. When David Valdeo said that his is 70% Hispanic, I thought, that's it? Because mine is higher than that, Hispanic. It's a diverse district, as you know. It is hardworking people who understand that this is the greatest nation in the world. But in order to continue to do that, we got to protect taxpayer money. We got to make sure we adhere to the rule of law and that we take common sense positions. Muy brevemente, porque acaban de llamar los votos. Gracias a todos ustedes por estar acá. Represento el Distrito 26 de Florida. Tengo el privilegio de ser el vicepresidente del Comité de Asignación de Presupuesto. También presido el subcomité que trata con todo lo que tiene que ver con relaciones exteriores y también estoy en el subcomité de defensa. Y por lo tanto eso consume mucha parte de mi tiempo. Proteger la seguridad nacional de los Estados Unidos. Y vamos a estar claros, este grupo que yo estoy tan orgulloso de ser parte, la conferencia hispana del Congreso de los Estados Unidos. Este es un grupo de líderes, de personas que activamente trabajan para su comunidad y para nuestro país y que lo hacen eficazmente. Esto no es un grupo que habla de temas, no. Este es un grupo que logra cosas importantes para nuestro país y para las personas que representamos. Y es un privilegio ser parte de este grupo. Cada persona en este país, si acaba de llegar y se acaba de convertir en ciudadano americano, lleva aquí generaciones, sabe que lo fundamental es el derecho de Estado, el derecho de proteger la ley. El derecho de Estado es lo que nos permite vivir en libertad, proteger la Constitución. Hemos visto en los últimos 4 años la administración de Biden, que realmente entre las cosas que hizo era la violación total del Estado de Derecho, incluyendo darle el control de la frontera sur a los narcocarteles mexicanos. Gracias a Dios eso está cambiando. Pero creo que es importante notar que hay un grupo de republicanos latinos, hispanos, que estamos trabajando en una forma muy unida y estamos logrando cosas importantes para nuestra nación. Y vamos a seguir logrando cosas importantes y le agradecemos tanto a todos ustedes que están aquí hoy por participar con nosotros. Tony.
Thank you. As you can see, the Hispanic Conference is optimistic. When people talk about Hispanic outreach, it's us. We're the ones living it. We're the faces. We're the ones talking to the people that represent Hispanic outreach. It's not 2 weeks of broken Spanish before an election. It is us. Like, we're living it every day. Like, we're outreaching now. So this conference, the Hispanic Conference, is going to be more and more engaged. We have votes called, so if members want to leave, but I do want to take a couple of questions from the audience. I'll start with Rena from Spectrum.
I have a couple of questions. What assurances did you get from the Trump administration when it comes to making sure that in the efforts to root out fraud and abuse, there aren't significant cuts to Medicaid and SNAP? And then second, you mentioned that you're a veteran. You served in the military for many years, certainly. You have a military-heavy district. What was your reaction to seeing that there were Trump officials talking about military-related information on Signal, and did you expect better from some of those cabinet members, like Director Ratcliffe?
I've got it. One, I'd say really appreciate the Trump administration for being communicative. I mean, they've been working very hard to work with members to answer questions. We've had concerns. I mean, there'll be more concerns. There's a lot of the legislation that has passed so far and that we're trying to pass. That's not easy. It's not an easy lift. Reconciliation is a very difficult lift. Ask any previous Congress before that. Sometimes it takes years to get it done. So my hat goes off to the Trump administration, the president, for working with Congress to get to yes in one of these smallest majorities. So I think that conversation is only going to continue. I think what you've seen today is the Hispanic Conference is united. A dozen votes. I mean, that's a block of votes that deserves a seat at the table. A reasonable group. The other part of your question were veterans. I'm a veteran myself. I'm the highest enlisted service member to ever serve in Congress. I get my benefits through the VA, right? So myself, Gabe Evans is another veteran in the conference. We're absolutely committed to making sure that veterans are protected. And once again, this is where Mario Diaz-Balart hit it right on the head. We are the doers in this Congress. We want to sit down. We want to have the dialogue. We want to find the waste and the fraud. We want to cut that, but we want to protect the kidneys and the lungs and the heart and other areas that are important. I think we can accomplish both. I think you're going to see this Hispanic Conference in particular do that. Mariana?
Hi, thank you. We've seen over the last couple of weeks how quickly the Trump administration has made decisions on a number of fronts. One of them, of course, has been on immigration. It's part of his campaign promise. Part of that has been, we've seen the revocation of TPS protections for Venezuelans. That obviously is significant for South Florida. But we've also seen a lot of these undocumented migrants being taken to Venezuela. It's without due process. It seems like some of them, the information is coming out that they're not part of that Tren de Aragua gang, the Venezuelan gang. There's just a number of other examples, though small, of permanent residents, green card holders not being able to come into the country after traveling abroad due to other potential questions. We're just seeing this targeting of Latinos in a different way. How are you all here processing all of that information? Are you trying to relate to the White House to, hey, let's go back to due process on a number of things, or just asking, can you keep us informed as to how these decisions are being made, because they do impact members of all of your communities?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that you saw today from the Hispanic Conference is just how diverse we are. I almost leaned over and joked with David Valadeo and give it to us in Portuguese now, right? I mean, just how diverse the group is and how diverse everybody's district is. And not everybody's in a predominantly Hispanic district either. I mean, Juan Ciscomani, he didn't want to give his percentage, but it's like a little over 20% Hispanic. So it's very diverse. And so what does that mean? That, to me, reflects the country. Right? Whether it's Florida, whether it's New York, whether it's Texas, Arizona, it reflects the country. So one of the things that we've in particular been working on is having that communication with the administration. Immigration is hard, very, very hard. And what we saw in the last administration is it swung this way, right? It was basically we're allowing hundreds of thousands of TPS visas to people that were cutting the line in front of all these other people that were doing it the right way. So then all of a sudden people said, well, why would I apply for a visa if the Biden administration is just going to rubber stamp it? And I think what you've seen is the Trump administration very quickly reversed that. Is that going to have impacts? Yes, it is. One of the things that I've been pushing for in particular, and I think you've heard this from the conference, is let's focus on those that are convicted criminal illegal aliens in our country. ICE gave me a letter last year to the tune of 662,000. That is a huge number. That's going to take a lot of energy, a lot of resources in order to accomplish that. If you get distracted by having this conversation of what are we going to do with the 10 million people that are already here, or what are we going to do with the people that have these other situations, you will go down a rabbit hole of no return. Just ask any other administration before that. I appreciate the way that the Trump administration has immediately tackled it, but it's a very difficult problem set. Last part I'd say is the Hispanic Conference is the place to have that conversation. I like to say no one's ever going to outborder me because I have half of the border. I'm on the border every single week. 2 weeks ago, I hosted the Vice President, the Secretary of Defense, and Director of National Intelligence. Like, I'm on the border nonstop. Nicole Malliotakis represents New York. You're not going to out New York her. Right? And so I think this is where I thought it is very important that the Hispanic Conference have a seat at the table with the administration to make sure we get it right. Probably have time for one more, and then we'll call it good. I'll go to Patrick, and then we'll call it.
Just to ask again about Medicaid, I think some of you in the conference met with Speaker Johnson around the time of the budget resolution on that topic. So can you just talk about how fully those concerns have been addressed and how open of a debate it is for you guys going forward?
Yeah, no, I think it's been very clear that, we put this letter together. There was 8 members on this letter that essentially said, let's make sure that we get it right and we protect Medicaid. And David Valadao, his district would be hit the hardest. It's a ridiculous number, 38% or over 30% of folks that would be impacted. So once again, the Hispanic Conference, we are vested in this. But I'd also say this too. President Trump has come out and said, and his administration has come out and said they don't have any intent on eroding some of these programs. So this is where we have to do the work. We, Congress, has to do the work. We have to come alongside the administration, not just, wish and pray and hope that they are accomplishing things, but working with them to make sure we, once again, root out the fraud and the waste. The stuff that DOJ is finding out every day is wild. And you go, how do you get rid of that? But also, how do you protect those that are on, that legitimately this is their only access to care? This is, rural communities. We mentioned Hispanic communities, but rural communities, if some of these clinics dry up, if some of these facilities dry up, all you're going to have is these deserts, these healthcare deserts. I don't want to see that in Texas. I'm sure other folks don't want to see it across the country. This is where we have to get it right. I know we're out of time today, but I really appreciate everyone covering it and happy to follow up with any other questions on anything else. Thank you again.
This program is copyrighted by Federal Network, Incorporated, and provided only for informational and educational purposes. Unauthorized reproduction, distribution, or use of this episode without expressed written permission from FedNet is prohibited. Thanks for listening to this FedNet podcast. You can watch live action from Congress on our YouTube channel at FedNet TV.